Thanks for stopping by. If you're ready to get lost in some creepy stories, hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up to join the adventure. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. What chilling mysteries do you want to hear about next? Get comfy because there's plenty of eerie fun ahead. I did not want to go back to Camp Ashgrove. Not after what happened. The camp had been closed for 15 years, ever since the incident. That's what everyone called it, as if it was some kind of freak accident and not a disaster that no one wanted to talk about. 12 kids deceased, 3 counselors missing. The cops said it was a gas leak, but that didn't explain why the bodies were wrong, twisted, like something had gotten to them prior to the fire having done so. I wasn't here when it happened. I'd left the year before, after my last summer as a junior counselor, but I knew the kids who died, knew the counselors too. So when the owners attempted to reopen the camp this year, I should have said no. Instead, I said yes. I guess I wanted closure. The camp hadn't changed that much in 15 years. The cabins were still standing, though the wood was gnarled and gray with age. The mess hall was the same as well, right down to the peeling sign that read, "Welcome to Camp Ashgrove." Even the lake was the same, that black water that seemed to stretch on forever, even though you could see the far shore if you squinted. But something was off. The air was too still, like the whole camp was holding its breath. The woods were darker than they should have been, even in the middle of the afternoon. And every time I looked toward cabin 6, the one where most of the kids had been asleep, I got this tight, crawling feeling in my chest. I attempted to tell myself that I was imagining things. But deep down, I didn't believe it. I was not alone anyway. There were 4 of us counselors, plus Megan, the camp director. Megan was a new employee, hired by the new owners, and she was nice enough young, ambitious, eager to prove herself able to make the camp succeed. The other counselors were somewhat of a mixed bag. Sarah was older, possibly mid-30s, and had that no-nonsense demeanor you usually found in high school gym teachers. Jason was a college student who kept his face glued to his phone most of the time. And then there was Rachel, who was my age and seemed nervous. Like myself, Rachel had been a counselor here before the camp closed down. I could tell she did not want to be here any more than I did, but when I asked her why she came back, she just shrugged. It seemed like the right thing to do, she said. The first several days were spent cleaning. We scrubbed the cabins, swept the mess hall, and cleared the trails around the lake. It was physical work, but it was nice to have something to do, to distract me from the memories. It wasn't until we started preparing cabin 6 that things began to get strange. Jason was the one who found the notebook. It was tucked under one of the bunks, the pages yellowed with age. "Hey, look at this," he said, opening it up. The first page was blank, but the second had a list of rules in tidy, curving handwriting. Never leave the cabins after dark. Don't go into the woods alone. Don't swim in the lake. Never ever break the circle. Jason snorted. Spooky. Probably just a prank, Sarah said, leaning over his shoulder. You know how kids are. But Rachel had gone white. I do remember those rules, she whispered. We'd recite them to the campers every summer. They weren't in the handbook or anything, they were just tradition. Why? I asked. Rachel shrugged. I don't know, but we always did them. That night I couldn't sleep. I was lying on my bunk staring up at the ceiling, my mind drifting back to the rules. The look on Rachel's face when she read them, the tension in her voice. The night was quiet, except for the occasional rustle of leaves outside. Too quiet. I rolled over, trying to push the feeling of dread out of my mind. That's when I noticed the light, a faint, flickering light coming from outside. I got up and went to the window, pulling back the curtain. I couldn't make out at first what I was seeing. The light was coming from the center of the camp, near the fire pit. And then I realized it was a circle, a ring of light glowing gently in the dark. I don't remember walking to the fire pit, but somehow I was there. The circle was made up of small, white stones, each of which was softly glowing with light. It was mesmerizing lovely even. And yet something wasn't right about it. The air around the circle seemed heavy, thick, and the stones weren't just glowing, they were shifting, slightly like they were alive. I reached out, my fingers skimming just over the edge of the circle. Don't! I spun around, my heart racing. Rachel was right behind me, her face pale and her eyes wide open. Don't touch it, she whispered, her voice trembling. What is it? I asked. She didn't answer. She simply grabbed my arm and pulled me away, her hand tight and panicked on my arm. We have to follow the rules, she whispered, or they'll come back. Rachel wouldn't tell me what she meant. After she dragged me away from the fire pit, she just muttered, "We have to follow the rules," over and over, like a prayer. When I pressed her for answers, she shook her head and refused to speak. I didn't sleep that night, not just because of Rachel, not just because of the circle of glowing stones, but because I swore I heard something, a faint sound coming from the woods, not rustling, not an animal, whispering. The next morning, Jason was gone. His bunk was empty. His phone, usually glued to his hand, was on the nightstand, the battery dead. His boots were still by the door. No one had seen him leave. At first, Megan thought maybe he went for a walk, but that didn't explain why his phone was here, or why Rachel looked absolutely terrified. "We have to find him," Megan said, pulling on her hiking boots. "He can't have gone far." We split up to search the camp. Sarah took the cabins, Megan checked the mess hall, and Rachel and I walked toward the woods. I noticed Rachel kept glancing over her shoulder, like she expected to see something following us. We found Jason near the lake. He was standing at the water's edge, his back to us, perfectly still. I let out a breath of relief. "Jason." He didn't turn. I stepped closer. "Dude, where the hell did you go?" We were worried. Still no response. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I reached out hesitantly and grabbed his shoulder. "Jason," he turned, and I screamed. His face was wrong. His skin was pale, too pale, like all the blood had been drained out of him. His lips were cracked, his expression frozen in a blank stare, but it was his eyes that sent ice through my veins. They were solid black. Not just his pupils, his entire eyes, glossy and dark like twin pools of ink. "Jason?" I whispered. His mouth opened. I expected him to say something, but no words came out, just a thick, wet gurgle, like he was drowning. I stumbled backward. Rachel grabbed my arm. "We need to go. Now." I didn't argue. We ran. Back at camp, Megan and Sarah were waiting. "Did you find?" Megan started, but then she saw our faces. Rachel doubled over, panting. "Something's wrong with him." I looked back toward the lake. Jason hadn't followed us. He was still standing there, staring at the water. I turned back to Megan. "We have to leave. Now." She frowned. "What are you talking about? We can't just leave Jason out there. He's not Jason anymore." The words came out sharper than I intended, but it was the truth. Jason was gone. Something else was standing in his skin. Sarah scoffed. "You're both overreacting." She turned toward the path, heading toward the lake. "I'll go talk to him." "Sarah, wait," I started, but she was already walking away. Rachel grabbed my wrist. Her fingers were ice cold. "It's happening again," she whispered. I looked at her. "What?" She swallowed hard. 15 years ago, the kids that died, the missing counselors. She took a shaky breath. "They all broke the rules." I stared at her. "What are you saying?" Her eyes darted toward the woods. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They're still here." A scream cut through the air. "Sarah." Rachel and I turned and ran toward the lake. By the time we got there, she was gone. Jason was standing in the same spot, still staring at the water, still not moving. But now there were two of them. Another figure stood beside him. It looked like Sarah. But when she turned to face us, her eyes were black, and she was smiling. Rachel grabbed my hand and ran. We didn't stop until we reached the cabins, gasping for air. "What the hell is happening?" I choked out. Rachel's hands were shaking. "They broke the rules," she whispered. "They went out at night. They went into the woods alone. And now they're not them anymore." I ran a hand through my hair, my heart hammering. "So what do we do?" Rachel took a deep breath. "We follow the rules.